Hello everybody and welcome to today's Wednesday video. We're going to talk about gremlins. We're going to introduce a series of videos on GAILs. First, can I share something with you? I have a gremlin that lives in my head. His name is Miles and he's a storyteller. He's actually not very friendly or helpful. He always catastrophizes everything and expects the worst possible outcome or explanation of someone's behavior. He tries to tell me how to parent, but he isn't a very good parent. He does not care about connection, he has no time for understanding, and he does not believe in empathy. He always thinks the worst of my kid, always. And he can be very insistent. And sometimes he actually gets me to agree. This is when I lose my control and revert to bad parenting habits. Does this ever happen to you? Do you have a storyteller too? Does he make you do things you regret later? Today I'll talk about gremlins, mine and yours. Most of us have more than one gremlin. Miles is just one of my gremlins, even though he honestly is the most vocal. So we'll talk about how they'll be affecting your parenting and family relationships and how you can confront your own gremlins. This will be the first in a series of 4 videos on GAILs. GAILs is an acronym that stands for Gremlins, Assumptions, Interpretations, and Limiting Beliefs. My name is Matt Kenyon, and I am a family relationship coach, parent mentor, and adoptive parent, a student of psychology, and the owner of Freethought Coaching, where I help parents do what I did: end the conflict, build happily integrated families, and foster trust with my teenager. My promise is that there is always at least one strategy, piece of advice, tool, or tip that you can use right after watching my videos. I'm available for one-on-one coaching for you, the parent, or your teen if your teen needs some help figuring out their path forward. Check out my website, freethoughtcoaching.com, to connect with me and join the community of parents like yourself. On there, you will find up at the very top a link to join the Facebook community. And about the middle of the page under my picture, you will see where you can sign up for my email community and get a free gift: my 12 steps for dealing when your child makes you so angry you could scream. All right, so let's get into this. Let's start by introducing GAILs. This will give us some context for what we're talking about. GAILs come from stuff that other people have put into our baggage that we haul around with us wherever we go, even if we don't intend to. They come from experiences, lessons we learned, and things we were told as children. GAILs served a purpose once, but they are no longer helpful in our current situations. So let's run through what the GAILs are real quick. Gremlins. Gremlins are a disempowering voice in your head that tells you about your inadequacy and what you're doing wrong. My gremlin, Miles, tells me about how I have let my son down and I'm not protecting him enough from the evil real world, and that I need to be more intrusive in order to protect him, of course. Assumptions. This is when we believe that just because something was true or happened before, that it will always be the same again and again and again. An example would be to assume that your kid is always out smoking pot whenever he isn't with you or at home, just because you caught them smoking a joint with some friends one time. Interpretations. This happens when we fall into the trap of believing that our interpretation of an event or something someone said is the only way of looking at it. It's when we forget that the other person or persons have their own experiences and perceptions and interpretations, and that ours is not the only one and definitely not the only correct one. Thinking your spouse wants to leave you because they said something needs to change during an argument or a frustrating moment would be an example of an interpretation. Limiting beliefs. These are beliefs we hold true about the world that may or may not be true, but that hold us back from achieving our goals and being successful because we treat them as if they are true. For example, believing that you are too old to go back to school and get a degree is a limiting belief. So let's move on to gremlins. What are they? Well, sometimes it's a storyteller like mine. Sometimes it's a voice from your past, like your parent who tells you something that's unhelpful. And often it is your own voice telling you something that's unhelpful about others or yourself. Gremlins tell us the things that we would refute if our friend tried telling these things to us, because they're unhelpful. Gremlins are by definition unhelpful. But at one time, they were a protection mechanism that we needed to keep us safe, or at least our brain thought we needed to keep us safe. They had a purpose. Sometimes they come from trauma. Sometimes they come from traumatic experiences in our past that we may not even be able to grab onto or touch and understand. Unfortunately, the purpose that they served once is no longer there, and the gremlin that worked so hard to keep us safe is now being harmful to our future. Miles, for example, gets upset when I don't agree with his assessment of the situation, and he can get very loud and persistent and ends up making me emotional. Gremlins only want to keep us safe. This is true. And they want to do that in the same way that they've always kept us safe in the past. If we respect that they are intending to be helpful, we can work with them and integrate them into our life in a helpful way instead of being overtaken by their message and getting emotional. We need to refute our gremlins, similarly to how we would refute and challenge those same voices if they were coming from someone else. The process is pretty simple, but it does take some effort. First, let's talk about what are the negative impacts of gremlins on parenting and family relationships. So, our gremlins, depending on their message, can make us feel inadequate. They can push us into worrying about things that either aren't worth worrying about or, frankly, worrying isn't helpful. They can create anxiety over things that may or may not even be true. They can make us, frankly, very emotional. And as we've talked before, when we get emotional, we make bad decisions. We get defensive, and sometimes we even go on the attack. None of this is helpful as a parent. Getting defensive does not help you connect with your child. Making bad decisions can cause ruptures in the relationship, and frankly, going on the attack is just antithetical to building connection and understanding and a trusting relationship with our child or our spouse. Our gremlins tell us things that lead us to mistrust other people. They can cause us to withdraw from family and other relationships in our lives. And they can keep us from trying new things or new strategies to be more successful or feel more fulfilled. They tell us we can't. My father had a saying that I like to bring up and use to refute my gremlin when he tells me I can't do something. Can't, never could do anything. I hated that saying when I was a kid. But now, as I realize the power of can't and can, I lean on that saying. And whenever I find myself hearing a gremlin voice saying, you can't do that, I refute that. That believing that I can't means that I never will. So how do we refute gremlins? Well, there's one method called the AIR method. And that is the way that I refute my gremlin. So let's talk about it. Awareness is what the A stands for. That means bringing the gremlin out into the light and recognizing them for what they are. We identify them. We give the gremlin a name. And that helps us personalize that gremlin and make it an individual, something that we can communicate with, instead of just this random voice in our head. As you go through thinking about naming your gremlin, don't name it after someone you know. That can be confusing and cause unnecessary harm in other relationships. This is consistent with the idea that comes from Daniel J. Siegel, that is to name it to tame it. Now, he uses this in reference to emotions, but let's face it, gremlins live on emotions. Gremlins are emotions. Gremlins cause us emotions. So the same concept can be applied to our gremlin. When we name that gremlin and we talk about and think about what is that gremlin's purpose and message, we tame that gremlin and we can make it do what we want. Because, as I said, Miles, my gremlin, is usually wrong. That is the truth of the matter. However, he plays on my emotions to get me to listen to him. It's not his fault. He's doing what he thinks is best to protect me and, frankly, my son. He's trying to be helpful. He's just not. His emotions are contagious because, frankly, they are my emotions, and they cause me to make bad decisions, as we humans tend to do when we get emotional. For example, when I'm stressed and emotional because I've been listening to Miles, I sometimes forget Miles is a gremlin, and I give in to his interpretation and fears. And this causes big problems for me and my relationship with my son. We can then think about what are the possible origins of this gremlin or its message. It's not necessary to know what the origins are, but it can be helpful in finding the gremlin a new message to at least think about possible places that this gremlin came from. One of the ways to do that is to think about, is there a recognizable voice here? Is this your dad's voice? Is this an old teacher's voice? Is this a mentor's voice? Whose voice is this that's telling us this message? Do you have any imagery that comes up for you when your gremlin starts speaking to you? Maybe that's helpful in figuring out where this message is coming from. So after we've brought in this awareness and we've brought our gremlin out into the light and we've thought about their origins and we've thought about what they were trying to do for us, then we move forward with, okay, now we have this gremlin and we've named them. And like I said, I named mine Miles. So now we move on to the I part, integration. How can we give our gremlin a new purpose or message that integrates them into our life better than their current job or message? First, we need to acknowledge that our gremlin is trying to be helpful. Next, we validate their hard work. Literally say to your gremlin, Miles, you have worked so hard over the years keeping me safe. But now that I'm a parent, I don't need that anymore. But I do validate all of your hard work to keep me safe. We can think about, how is the gremlin trying to keep us safe? And safe from what? What is it that that gremlin is trying to keep us safe from? And thank them for that. Because they work to call our attention to dangers. This is an evolutionary thing. We evolved to sense dangers everywhere. That bush that moved next to us when we were a caveman, we assumed was a predator and we ran. Why? Because that kept us safe. It was our fight or flight system. Unfortunately, a lot of times that's just not helpful in our modern life. But it was there to keep us safe. But like a gremlin, it is no longer effectively keeping us safe. So what new job or message can we give this gremlin? This is the last part of this integration, is to think about this new job. What positive message could the gremlin give to you instead of the negative one it's been giving? What new helpful things could your gremlin do for you? How can we utilize them for a positive purpose? Spend some time taking some deep breaths and centering yourself. Maybe even try doing this during some meditation and think about, how can you change this job of your gremlin so that your gremlin can be helpful instead of harmful? And then the final step in the AIR method is releasing the gremlin. This is when we officially give the gremlin their new job and send them off into the world to serve their new purpose on our journey going forward. Thank your gremlin for being willing to take on this new job and all the hard work that they have done over the years to protect you and all of the work that they're going to do in the upcoming years. You tell them that you're looking forward to this new job and the new way of working in this relationship with your gremlin. And then close your eyes and imagine your gremlin accepting the new job and being enthusiastic about the new opportunities. I had a talk with my gremlin, Miles, and reminded him and myself that I don't need him to tell me these catastrophic stories anymore to protect me. His protection is not necessary at this point and can sometimes actually be harmful. I have gratitude for him, but I'm also trying to change the narrative. And the new message that I have asked Miles to share is that my son is doing his very best. I don't need to worry about what decisions he's making. I just need to be here and support him through all of the natural consequences that may occur. And Miles does a great job of reminding me of those things. Sometimes he still reverts back to bad habits, as we all do. But I'm glad that Miles is there with his new job to help me remember to just be supportive to my son. So in conclusion, let's recap. Gremlins are one of 4 types of blocks that we call GAILs. Gremlins, assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs. This was our first video of 4. Today we talked about gremlins. Gremlins are a disempowering message that tells you about your inadequacy and what you're doing wrong. We talked about how gremlins can negatively affect our parenting and family relationships. We met my gremlin, Miles the storyteller, and we talked about how he affects my parenting. I gave you an overview of the AIR method for dealing with gremlins. We became aware of our gremlins, we integrated them into our new life, and we released those gremlins with a new job so they can be helpful to us. Keep your mind open to when you may be hearing a gremlin who needs a new job. Don't judge yourself for having that gremlin, but give him a new job. If you would like to work on your gremlins, I am available to help. Please go to freethoughtcoaching.com and go to the Work With Me page, and there you can connect with me and we can start working through your gremlins, assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs that are getting in the way of you being the parent that your kid needs. Reach out with any questions you may have, either through email or through my website. I am always wanting to help. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day. Don't let your gremlin convince you that you're wrong, and happy parenting. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope this video has been useful to you. I would love it if you could leave a comment with something in this video that resonated with you or helped you and your family out on your journey. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can get notified when I release new content. It massages the algorithm and helps get these videos out to other parents that need them. I really do appreciate your love and support. If you would like to join my Facebook community, Connected Parenting, where I have other videos, group of parents who are struggling with the same issues you are, there is a link down in the description. Have a great day. Try to be the parent your kids need today. Happy parenting.